All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this series, I guess, on SSH. We're going to take a look at some of the things we can do with it. So here's my situation. I'm a developer or an administrator of some machines that are running my application. Maybe my workplace application, maybe my own application. And all these things are running in some data center somewhere. So each of these blocks here, they represent some server, some machine. Probably some Linux running there. And I have some apps deployed here and here, some microservices. I have an Elasticsearch deployment and also Postgres database. Now, for each of these servers, there's a couple of administrative operations that I need to perform, or as a developer, some troubleshooting and debugging. So for that, I need to be able to get into this machine to run some commands and to do some things. One way I can do that is to drive to the data center and then open up each of these machines and then go run my commands and see what's going on. But that's not going to be sustainable. I'm going to get real tired of that. The solution is, I'm going to add an arrow here. From my developer machine, I'd like to be able to connect to these machines running in my data center. And for that, we're going to make use of a tool or a service called SSH. So what this is, let me open up just a normal terminal on my, this is a terminal. So I can run some commands here, I don't know, change my directory to the root, var, log, and then go see what kind of logs do I have in here. Whatever, right? I can tell the package manager to update all of the packages. This is also known as a shell. So what the SSH allows us to do is open up a shell, like this terminal, on a remote machine and then execute some commands on that. So I'm just going to keep this local terminal open. So this is my client machine, in this case, the developer machine. And now with this terminal, I'm going to connect to my servers. And to demonstrate that, I have some virtual machines installed here with the Virt Manager. So I'm just going to run this Fedora machine here. So let's see here. Power on the virtual machine. It's going to run through all of its stuff. And then it's as if I drove to the data center and I'm logging into this machine with my admin user. So just a quick word on users. If I open up a terminal on this machine and I go to, let's say, the root directory, so I change my directory to the root and I do ls-l, you'll notice there's this root owner here. So that's a special user. That's sort of like the machine as a user. This guy doesn't get a home directory, or at least not a typical one. There's this root directory on the root of the machine, which sort of acts like the home directory for this user. This user can do anything. So if we need to make changes to the machine or delete directories or add things to places where my current user doesn't have permissions, we can use the root user, provided that the current user is able to switch roles. It's like a switch role to the root and then perform some operations. Now there is a shortcut for that. If we use this sudo, we can act as the root. So usually you'd want to do something like this. So if I run tnf update -y, it's going to tell me I don't have permissions to do this. It requires super user privileges. So I can either do sudo dnf update, and then I'll provide a password here. And I've already updated this machine, so nothing to do here. The other option is to switch user. So if I pass in this dash to this command, then it's going to ask me for the root user's password. And now I am the root user. See there? Root. If I go to the home directory of this user, this tilde is like a shortcut for the home directory, and I do present working directory, you'll see it says root. But with this user, I can do this stuff without that sudo prefix. So this root user is pretty important. I'm going to hit Control D to log out of the root user and just have my normal account here. So we know that this user is available on this machine. And I'm logged in as this user. So I have the password for this guy and everything. So let's take a look. Where's this guy's home directory? It's going to be on home/moss, right? That's the home directory. So what I want to do is with this terminal that I have open on my client machine, I'd like to open up a secure shell to the server. And we can make use of this program, SSH. So let me run this, SSH, and then we give the username that we want to log in as, and then @ now this could be a host name, like a DNS host name, or an IP address. In my case, I'll use the IP address because this virtual machine doesn't have a host name. And we see here SSH tells me that connection refused on this port. All right, that could mean a couple of things. One of them is that the service isn't running on port 22, or it's not running at all. So with SSH, there's two components. This one here is the client component. Then there's also a server component, which in this case, on this Fedora machine, runs as a systemd service. So we can take a look at it. If I do systemctl status sshd, it's disabled, yeah, whatever. It's inactive, so that means that it's not running currently. So for this, let's try systemctl start sshd. Now it tells me there's authentication required, so I'm not going to do that. What I'll do is I'll assume, or I'll run this command as if I'm the root user. So let's see here, systemctl start sshd. And now if I run the status command, it's telling me that it's active running. You'll notice that the status command here doesn't require any permission, some elevated permissions. Okay, let's go back to my client machine and I'm going to try this again. Now it's asking me for the password. This is the password of the user that I'm trying to log in as on the server. So it's not the local machine, it's the user on the server. And there we go. Now I'm in here. And to make sure that this is working, let me do ls. We see here there's a couple of things in here. I'm going to make a directory, call it test. All right, this is still on my client machine or my host operating system. Let's take a look at this guy's home directory now. If I ls, then I'm expecting to see this test folder in there. So that's it. We've successfully set up SSH or logged in to this machine using SSH. Now I can do all kinds of things here. I can do a DNF update. And it's going to ask me for this password. If I pass it in, it's going to tell me nothing to do, but this would have updated the machine. It's as if I logged in there. And that's SSH. So what's required for this to work? If we go to the home directory, so cd home, and this is where all the users have their home directory. So if I do an ls in here, you'll see this current user has a directory here. If I do ls-l, it's going to tell me the owner of this is in fact this user. So that means we need a valid user on the server to be able to use this. The second thing we need is this sshd running as a systemd or R unit or whatever. It should be running there. And then finally, we need a client. So these things can be added with your package manager, or when you install the operating system, there's usually a checkbox that tells you, do you want to be able to log in with SSH? And then it'll set up all this stuff for you. If you don't want to have to run this start command every time you boot up the machine, then you can make use of this. So systemctl enable sshd. Now let's take a look at this line here. So if I run this, it's going to give me some information. But now if I run systemctl status sshd, it's going to tell me that it's enabled. So whenever I start this machine, I reboot it or whatever, it's going to also start the sshd service in the background. Then I don't have to fiddle with it. Also, something useful with this status command here, we see here there's some logging. So here I can see who's connected to this thing. It tells me also that it accepted the password. And later on, we'll take a look at how to avoid using passwords and instead make use of a key pair. So I've already done something for that previously. So we'll take a look at that.